Oh, my song went. It's weird.
Yeah, they can hear us.
Hey, good evening. I'm listening for the sound and it just kind of stopped in my headphones. But how's everyone doing?
Happy Monday.
We're finally able to work it out with Linda. I've had Linda waiting backstage for a few minutes, so I'm going to bring Linda right on here. There she is. Okay, finally.
Hey, Linda.
Good to be here.
So Linda and I went back and forth. Linda, who owns Hill House Manor, correct? In
Correct.
Gainesville, Texas. Linda and I went back and forth. I was supposed to have her on Thursday, but I had to pick Chris up from the airport, and Linda was going to come on Friday, but Linda had some commitments that she had to take care of. So we went back and forth, and finally,
Here we are.
So, Linda, we were talking with Linda a little bit before we went on live, and I know this is going to be a good one because I discovered Linda just randomly on my YouTube page. I was scrolling through and I saw a little blurb about a news crew that went to this place in Texas, and they mentioned about sexual ghosts or something. So I click on the link, and it was a news crew, and there was Linda. And I don't want to get too much into it. We're going to get into the whole story, but there's some weird stuff going on in that house, but we're going to start at the beginning. So, Linda, let's talk about before you bought Hill House Manor. Had you and your husband ever lived in a haunted place, experienced paranormal activity of any kind anywhere you ever were?
Hadn't even heard of ghost hunters.
Really?
Really.
So nothing anywhere. You never anything paranormal in your life prior to that?
Well, I'd had paranormal things happen to me, but I don't know. I guess I figured everybody did, you know?
Well, I don't think everybody does. I mean, she had stuff when she was younger, but I never experienced anything. What were your beliefs as far as the paranormal? Did you believe that spirits existed and they could come and go? And
oh, yeah. I've had experiences before we bought this house.
Really?
But no one ever said you need to call ghost hunters to come in and check it out. It was just, we
dealt
all
with it.
knew. Yeah, we dealt with it.
Well, what kind of things, if you don't mind me asking, did you experience?
Well, I retired from a dental lab a few years back. And my total career in dental laboratories was probably 45 years.
Oh.
So at one point, I owned a dental lab, and there were about 6 or 8 people working there. And we were in an office building. And one day, I'm sorry, I'm just going blank here. Because this isn't a story I've ever told.
Okay.
I haven't
But-
rehearsed this at all.
That's good though.
That's
We don't want that.
exclusive, everybody. Right on
This
there.
is an exclusive, yes. Because
Right.
I don't talk about things that happened to me other than Hill House Manor. Nobody's really asked before.
I mean, do you mind
Anyway.
if
No, I don't mind.
okay.
The laboratory was an L shape,
Okay.
and it had an entrance at both ends of the L. And we had a door chime so that if someone walked into the office, it would chime and we would know to go check out the office, because dental lab technicians don't work in an office. That was there for the bookkeeper when she came in. We were all back in the lab making teeth. And anyway, this one day, the chime went off and everybody heard it and looked, and there was nobody there. But in the time it would take to walk from the front door to the back part of the lab, which is where we kept the break room with a TV set, the TV came on.
Wow.
Yeah. Which we all thought was kind of odd, because that TV didn't just come on all the time. That was the first time it ever happened. But in that same building, at some point, one of my employees got up from the room they were in and walked into a glass windowed room where another employee was and said, "Linda obviously can't help you. What can I do to help you?" And apparently she had heard someone in that room calling out for Linda. That's me.
Wow.
And everybody had heard it but me. Everybody knew that they hadn't called her. Nobody had called out my name, but everybody had heard my name called out.
And prior to that, how long had you worked in that building with nothing happening?
We
Dude.
froze up.
Oh, do you hear me? You hear me?
I think she froze up.
Yeah, I froze up. You
There she
froze up
goes.
and then I froze up.
You can hear me though, right?
I can hear you now.
Okay. So
Yeah.
prior to that experience, how long had you been working there?
By then I had expanded quite a bit. I had probably been in the building for 4 or 5 years or
Wow,
more.
and nothing happened up until that point. That's crazy.
No.
Wow.
Did anything happen in that time period? Like something like big or no?
No.
Huh.
We had expanded several times. We started at one end of the L and just kept renting out more of
okay.
the L.
Moving
And
into more space.
Yeah, we were
Yeah.
growing. I mean, I started with myself only, and by the time this happened, there were at least 6, if not 8 employees.
Wow. So that kind of, did that get your belief in ghosts and spirits? Did that kind of make you start believing, or did you believe
Oh
before
no,
that?
I've always believed in them.
Okay.
I was raised a Catholic. I'm not a Catholic anymore, but I was raised a Catholic, so we're all about spirits and stuff.
Yeah. So I watched a video from the previous owner of Hill House. I guess she had a website and everything about the house itself, and when you purchased it, did you have any idea that there was stuff going on there?
No, we had no idea. We bought it as part of a real estate deal that included several houses in a 2-block area.
Oh wow.
And that house was, I had put in the contract that I didn't want that house. I wanted the other houses, but I didn't want that house. I loved the house. It's a beautiful house. I just had a bad feeling about it. I don't know why. I can't tell you why.
Right.
But they came back and said, no, you have to take all the properties or none.
Wow.
And so
So it was an investment opportunity.
Yes.
You were planning
Yes.
on renting it out,
Oh,
I
yes.
guess.
Oh, yes. We did rent it out for a couple of years, but people would sign a 12-month lease and they would leave after 3 months
Oh,
or
that's not
2
very
months.
long.
The longest anybody lasted was 6 months.
Wow.
And they would always tell us that someone was sick and they had to move to California to get it treated, or someone in Utah was sick and they had to move to Utah to take care of them. There was always somebody sick, and always the whole family had to go.
So your opinion on that in hindsight is that they
It was
didn't want to,
haunted and they couldn't take it.
yeah, they didn't want to sound kooky and say the place is
Oh,
haunted
you're
and
not
they're
going to
seeing
get out of your
things.
lease
They
just
were
by
just,
saying, hey, I
yeah,
got
trying
the
to get out of the
EBGBs and
lease.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
not one of them actually said to you, hey, there's stuff going on here. We're seeing
No.
things where, wow.
Never. And I don't know who would have posted that they owned Hill House Manor before me, but I know the people that owned it before me, and they wouldn't put up a website.
Okay,
So
I'll show it
that's
to you. I'll
something
send it to
else.
you afterwards.
Okay.
I'll show you where I
Okay.
got it from. So at what point do you find out for yourself that something is going on there?
Well, my husband was showing a property across the street from this house, and the woman he was showing it to pointed to Hill House, which wasn't named Hill House at that point. That's another story. But she pointed at Hill House and she said, that house is haunted. My aunt lived there 30 years ago and it was haunted then. And my husband came and told me about it. And my first reaction was, okay, you move into the big house on the corner and the neighbors start telling you that it's haunted. And it's an old house. This house is like 150 to 200 years old. It was one of the first places homesteaded, I'm sure,
Okay.
in this part of Texas. And that wasn't the house that's there now. That was a single cabin, single room cabin. Anyway, I digress. She told him it was haunted. I said, well, maybe people tell you it's haunted. You hear things go bump in the night, and now everything is a ghost. But if that's what's going on, there's no point in renting it out again, because they're just going to move in and move out. That causes a lot of damage.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the deposit does not cover the kind of damage that comes from moving in and then turning around and moving out.
No.
Now,
Look.
just to interrupt you really quick.
Yep.
I did hear, maybe you said it or maybe I read it, 10 tenants over 2 years.
Oh, I've never said 10 tenants.
Okay. Now, was this one family living in it, or were there multiple units that they
It was a
lived in?
triplex.
Okay.
And one of the units was not rentable. It needed rehabbing.
Okay.
And we were going to do that, because, that would turn it into a nice little cash flow.
Right.
Yeah.
Let the other 2 units pay for the work on the third unit. After bills are paid, it wasn't
Right.
like pure profit or anything. But anyway, what was the question?
I was just curious how many tenants were there. So then, how did you come to know that something was going on?
It's not just hearsay.
Well, we heard it was here. We heard the hearsay.
Right.
Yep.
And decided that we were tired of renting it out for 2 or 3 months and then having to fix it up again and back and forth. And we said, look, we live an hour away from here. We would come up on the weekends because we were both working during the week. We would come up on the weekends and really not come for the weekend because we didn't have any place to stay. We
Right.
would drive back to the house and then turn around, drive back Saturday morning, back and forth, back and forth. And we said, look, we'll just fix this place up as a place for us to stay on the weekends where we can just come up, crash, put an air conditioner in the bedroom, put a microwave in and a refrigerator and, bare minimum of stuff. And that's what we did. We used it as an office.
Wow.
For, signing contracts and that kind of stuff. My daughter had friends at NCTC. It's a college.
Okay.
And it's a community college. Anyway, she had some friends that she told about it, and they wanted to come and investigate it.
Right.
And I said, okay, that's fine. And they came and investigated and left in the middle of the night instead of staying all night, which they had planned on doing. And they knocked on the door at like 3:00 in the morning. We're going to head on out. So-and-so is not feeling good.
Oh, boy.
Somebody's sick. And so they left. They wanted to get a good start on going all the way back to, I think it was Houston or Galveston. It was someplace that's 5 or 6 hours from here.
Oh, okay.
And they called me a couple of days later and they said, we did the same thing to you that your tenants did. We told you someone was sick and we left before we said we would. And by the way, you had activity.
Hmm.
And that was like, okay. And then somebody else called because news spreads in the paranormal community.
Oh, yeah.
And somebody else called and wanted to know if they could come investigate. And I said, would you pay? And they said, sure. So I charged them $50
That's
to
nothing.
come out and investigate and cover the electricity,
Right.
And they came out and they all agreed that we had activity. There was paranormal.
But did they share any of their findings with you, like
Oh, yeah.
recordings or anything?
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
what types of things were they showing you at that point?
At that point, someone had come up with, oh gosh, I don't know if I have it on this computer. I'm totally unprepared for this.
No,
No,
I'm
it's
just
fine.
curious what the
Yes,
types
there
of
was a
things.
picture of a little girl, looked like she was out of the 1800s. An apparition.
Wow.
Like it didn't look like a girl standing there. It
Right.
looked like an apparition of
Okay.
a girl standing there.
Wow.
And it's unmistakable. Once you see it, you can't not see it.
So it was clear to you. It didn't look like a
Oh.
shadow, pixelated.
Oh, no.
was clear.
You could make it out.
Okay. Wow.
Now I get ones that you can't make out all the time.
Right.
People send me pictures of the Hill House. They send me pictures of other places they've investigated. What we're really strong on, though, is EVPs.
Yep.
If you don't get an EVP at Hill House Manor, you didn't bring a recorder.
Yep.
Or
And
you
that's the
didn't
best-
turn it on.
That's honestly the best type of evidence you can get
Yeah.
because the equipment is subjective, of course, because lots of variables and things can affect it. But an EVP, a voice, is the best.
Right.
I want to put a pin in that really quick because at this point, as well as I know, as a paranormal researcher investigator, the first thing that anybody's going to ask you is, did anybody die in the house?
And the answer is very interesting.
Okay.
Yes, someone did die in the house. They do not haunt the house.
Huh.
But they were haunted by a spirit that I believe still haunts the place.
Okay.
One of many, many spirits. And people ask me, who can we expect to find there tonight? And I got no idea. It depends on who you start interacting with and whether they think you're, worth talking to.
Yeah, because I think, again, one of these videos, or because I did see a few of the paranormal groups investigations or bits and pieces of them, and the word bordello is mentioned,
Yes.
but
Yes.
that's not proven or documented, right? Anywhere
No,
that
it's
that's
not. It's not. And it wasn't a bordello. It was a speakeasy.
gotcha.
Ah.
And there is some, I don't know if I'd call it evidence, but there is a possibility that it was a speakeasy.
Right.
There is also a possibility that it was used in the Underground Railroad.
Okay.
Hmm.
Makes
There's
sense.
some interesting hiding places in the
Wow.
house. And I've never mentioned that on anybody's.
Hey, we're from New Jersey. We get it out of you. Trust me. You're gonna tell everything. We're gonna talk about your childhood trauma.
You don't have that much time.
I
honey.
am like Dr. Phil. You'll see. I'll get it out of you. So, there was a murder in the house, though, right? That's
No,
what
it was
all
not a
this-
murder. It was not a murder. The woman who owned it, 2 owners before me, died of cancer
Oh, okay.
in the home. And her son, we know her son and have talked to him about it a few times. He won't come in the house.
Yeah, I understand that.
And he believes that she was haunted by a woman that kept an eye on her.
Hmm.
Like he would leave and come back, and she'd have a blanket on her, and she'd been asleep the whole time he was gone.
Wow.
Things like the little things.
Yeah, but that's really interesting because, again, not every building you could tie down everything that happened in it and document everything. But there are a lot of buildings out there. You know this. You've been around this for long enough to where mediums and other people tend to set the narrative for a location. Like there's one building we've been in. I'm not going to say where, but somebody, a mafia guy, was upstairs. Someone a woman hung herself in the back room. Yet none of that's
No
documented. It's just there's a million
It's just
stories.
statements
But,
being thrown out there that people
So-
just build on because they take it
but
as
you also, there are things that aren't documented and aren't known.
Yeah.
We all know that. So
Well, this came from the woman that keeps the museum up. And I don't even know if she's there anymore. But
okay.
I went over looking for information there because trying to chase it down in the court records was a nightmare. It's all meets and bounds. It's not by address. It's by meets and bounds descriptions of the property. And all these properties were tied together at one time and then sold off in packages.
Right.
I want to buy 60 homes. Okay, we've got 60 over here,
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway,
So these groups are showing you these things and telling you these things. It's not, your curiosity isn't piqued to go, let me go in there and see what I can see. And
the first couple of years that we opened it up to people,
right.
and I would stick around. Well, we both would stick around.
Okay.
We were letting people in our house.
Right, of course.
You know?
You have no
So
idea what people are going to do. They can
Yeah.
draw pentagrams on the floor. They can
Right. They can do all
sacrificing
that.
goats in there.
So we would stay the night in our little bedroom in the back that we had made up.
Okay.
And we did that for a couple of years.
Okay.
And then we moved to Gainesville, and we were right around the corner from the house. And then we started feeling like it was okay to leave people unsupervised.
Okay.
And we had gotten to know people.
Yeah.
And you can tell a lot about the person setting up the tour.
Yep.
Or the investigation, or whatever you want to call it. You can tell a lot just in the getting to know each other
Yep.
about whether these people are serious or if they're out having kicks.
Yep.
See, and can I stop you there for 1 second?
Yeah.
Because this is sort of a sidebar thing, because we deal with a lot of locations, and people don't hear it from your perspective as the owner of the building. And I'm glad you said what you said, because there are certain people that either directors or the responsible or they own the building, they don't trust just anybody or any group being in there by themselves. Because people often ask, why don't they let everybody in? Because there are groups out there that you have no idea what they're going to do. They're going to break things. They're
This
going
is
to
an
break into
investment
rooms.
property. Like
So
you said,
this
people
is-
renting,
Right.
destroying.
But this
Imagine
is from
someone
someone
coming
who
in
owns a
overnight.
location that's saying you get to know the people, you know who you can trust, and you know you have to watch certain other people because you just never know.
You don't.
And another thing from the perspective of an owner is the foot traffic that the house is subjected to.
Right.
Like we've got 2 staircases and they go up and down the staircases all night. You come home, you live there, you come home, you flop down on the couch, you're done.
Yeah.
You're not running up and down stairs and back and forth through the house. You get a team in and you've got 10 or 15 people
Bingo.
going up and down the stairs and
Yep.
all around the house. You've got wear and tear
Yep.
that you don't realize. We've replaced steps on both the front and back staircase because so much traffic. Yeah. There's
But
more
you're
than
charging
one-
more now, right? You're charging more than $50,
Yes,
I
we're
imagine.
charging more, but not much more.
Right.
We charge for a Saturday night, which is our busiest night. We charge $250.
That's nothing.
Oh, you're
That's
way
for
below
10 people.
Right.
That's 25
Right.
bucks a person. That's nothing.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah,
I
that's
try
nothing.
to keep it reasonable.
That's good that you do that. It
Yeah.
really is.
I'm not out here trying to make a profit. I'm just trying to
Right.
make it pay for itself.
That's good.
So
Uh,
on this, I got to get to the point where the news, because I got to get to that point because I laughed. I watched that video at least 4 times just to watch you tell that story.
Was
What-
this on the Jesse Waters?
No, it was a quick, like, little blurb. It was like a
On the
minute
news.
and a half, where they're talking to you. You're in, I guess, the bathroom, talking about what happened there, and you talk about the door that opens. That's the only part they talk about. But you bring up that there's other things related to what happened in the bathroom that are kind of normal for what the spirit's behavior
Well,
is.
this takes us back to the bordello.
Okay.
It was not a bordello. I do not believe it was a bordello. I believe that it was speakeasy.
Right.
Simply from all the stories I have heard of EVPs,
Okay.
it leads me to believe that it was a speakeasy, but there's no proof of that.
Right.
But if you had a 2-story building and you had a speakeasy going on and you had 3 rooms upstairs that all connect to the same bathroom, you could have been turning tricks too.
Yeah. If it was a bordello, definitely.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
a speakeasy.
Yeah, speakeasy.
Definitely.
You're already illegal.
Yep.
Yeah.
So throw 3 women up there or more
Right.
and take advantage. So that's where that started from. And that was actually the museum director that pointed that out to me. She found the address. No, because the address had changed. We froze up again.
Oh, really? You don't hear me?
We froze up again.
We hear you.
We can hear you.
see
You can
you.
hear us? Okay.
I can hear you again now.
Okay,
It
good,
went
good.
blank screen.
Oh, really?
They used to have directories before they had telephone directories.
Right.
They had people directories, and it
Okay.
was just the neighbors. I mean, this one directory that she pulled out and showed me had one man whose address was 3rd tent from the bridge on some little creek over there. I mean, they went that deeply into it. If you lived in a tent in this town, you were in the directory.
Oh, wow.
Told
Okay.
what you did for a living, and it might say Sarah Jones lives at this address and has a boarder named, and give his name and
Okay.
what he did for a living and all of this stuff. And she recognized a name. Now, the neighborhood we bought is not a good neighborhood. Well, it's a good neighborhood now, but back when we bought it, it was not a good neighborhood.
Right. Right.
There were drugs being sold. There was probably sex being sold.
Okay.
It wasn't, you don't want to raise the kids here.
Okay.
That's the way it was in this directory.
Right.
She recognized the address and she recognized the owner's name. And she said he would not have lived in that neighborhood.
Okay.
He more likely lived there's a southern section of the old town that is pricey.
Right. Right.
He would have lived there. He
Okay.
was a member of the elite.
Gotcha.
Mm.
He had the biggest hardware store in the county.
Yep.
He had plenty of money. He had plenty of resources to buy an old house in the bad side of town
Mm-hmm.
and fix it up where it could be used as a speakeasy and other things.
That makes sense. A lot of, again, back in those days, a lot of people made money off of booze and gambling and women and all that stuff.
Right.
They made their
Right.
fortunes that way.
Right. So
Especially in our neck of the woods. So let's get to what happened and that whole thing. So up to this point, you had heard EVPs and everything like that, but you had never experienced it firsthand directly yourself.
Well,
right?
you can hear things
Okay.
like you'll be downstairs, nobody else in the house, and you'll hear a party going on upstairs.
Oh, wow.
People walking around, furniture being moved, and there wasn't any furniture up there.
Wow.
Like that. So I had experienced those things,
Okay.
but I've always been able to talk myself out of it.
Right.
So she bought a party house. That's
Hey,
what she's
nothing
saying.
wrong with that.
I did. Apparently, I did. We get a lot of different spirits through there, and it depends on the group of people that is
Yeah.
investigating what kind of spirits they draw in.
That's natural for any place you go because we preach ourselves in every place. You never know how energies are going to mix.
Right.
Spirits are attracted to different people, like people are attracted to different people for different reasons.
Exactly.
So that's what.
Exactly.
So let's get to that because I'm dying to get this out of you.
You want my first experience that totally turned me around?
Yes, let's do that.
The one that made it onto my ghost story?
Yes. Oh, by the way, yes, featured on my ghost stories. That's another point. The Hill House Manor.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this was back when we were occupying the back bedroom.
Okay.
And we were going up on weekends and working on houses in the neighborhood. And I had been, it was the summertime. And it was hot. And this house does not have central air.
Okay.
It has a couple of air conditioners in strategic places to keep it where there's someplace cool to go.
Right.
When you get too hot. Anyway, I had been ripping carpet out of a bathroom, which is disgusting.
Yeah.
If you've ever tried to rip carpet out of a bathroom, it is disgusting.
Yeah.
And I was covered in disgusting. And I decided I was done for the day and I was going to go take a shower. Now, like I said, it's not air conditioned, but there was an air conditioner in the room by the bathroom. So we would leave the door open to let the air conditioning in. Anyway, I go over and my husband has already called it a day. He's sitting in a recliner in the bedroom reading something off the internet. And I started getting ready to take a shower and he said, looking good. I had lost 15 pounds recently. And he said, looking good. And I said, well, thank you. Yeah, what do you say? Anyway.
You say thank you.
Yeah. I walked in and started the shower. And I'd been standing there just letting the water run on me to cool down. And he came to the door of the bathroom and stood in the doorway. So, and I'm looking through a Walmart
frosted glass
curtain.
Oh, curtain. Okay.
You know, the cheap ones that you can almost see through, but not quite.
Right.
Yep.
That's all we had hanging there. And he said, looking good. I said, well, thank you again. What have you been doing? He said, I've just been reading. And I asked him another question, and he asked me another question. There was a conversation. And he was finished and turned and walked off the other direction from which he came. And I thought, well, he's going to get some coffee or something.
Right.
And like 30 seconds later, here he comes out of the bedroom again, stands in the doorway. And I looked, I said, how did you get back in the bedroom? He said, I've been in the bedroom. Who were you talking to? Oh my God. This house is haunted.
But that didn't freak you out?
Oh, yes, it freaked me out.
I mean, it's different when you hear a voice on an EVP and a little knock and a little
Right.
dragging thing.
Yeah.
But to know that somebody's there watching you and
you're
commenting,
naked.
yeah.
You're
And
vulnerable.
Exactly. Well, it gets even weirder.
Okay, let's go there.
We didn't get to this, I don't think, on my ghost story because they were part of the discovery. There was a man, Jimmy Billman. There is a man, Jimmy Billman. He liked Hill House. We get every once in a while, we get someone that just falls in love with Hill House and comes as often as they can and,
Right.
you know, helps out with stuff. And they're just a treasure. Anyway, Jimmy wanted to spend a night alone in Hill House Manor. At that point in time, no one had ever done that. And I took him over and helped him get set up, and then I left because at this point we were living in the neighborhood. And that was all I thought about it. And I went over the next morning and knocked on the door. There's a main door, and then there's a side door that goes to one of the units.
Okay.
I knocked on that door because that's where he was. That's where the air conditioning was. Anyway, he answered the door, and he was white as a sheet. I said, is everything okay? He said, Linda, there was a ghost in here. And it's like, isn't that what you came for? When people tell me that they saw a ghost, I'm like, isn't that what you came for? Is there something we can do to fix that?
I mean, yeah.
Anyway, he described to me what had happened. He was sitting at a desk that when you're sitting at the desk, you can't see the shotgun to the kitchen from the room. You have to roll back and tilt your head to see all the way into the kitchen. And he heard something and rolled his chair back and looked, and there was a man standing in the doorway.
Whoa.
And he didn't get a picture of it. He has no evidence of it.
Right.
But he told me about it, and something happened. They came down and did a B-roll. I don't know if you know what that is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Hollywood, they
just film
did
footage.
it all in Hollywood, and then
stock
they sent
footage.
them to the location to do a B-roll.
Right.
Anyway, he was there doing that, and Jimmy started describing the man that he had seen in the doorway, and he struck a pose kind of with one hand on his hip and the other one on his knee. It kind of looks like John Wayne takes a stance like that every once in a while. But also, my late husband used to stand like that.
Oh boy, that's weird.
Yeah, that makes it a lot weirder because Jimmy described this man, and I said, wait a minute. I've got some pictures. I'm going to bring some pictures out. Now, my late husband was in the military.
Right.
And he ran around with other military types. You know, he wasn't in the military anymore. He worked for the FAA.
Okay.
But he had been military, and, you know, once a Marine, always a Marine.
Yep.
They run around everywhere together. We'd go camping together. We'd go, you know, to all kinds of things. Anyway, I had pictures of my husband with other guys, lots of them. So I went and grabbed a few of them, and some of them he wasn't even in, and some of them were him and, you know, a couple other guys or 4 other guys, whatever. But it was mixed up enough that you wouldn't be able to look at the stack and say, oh, that's got to be him. Anyway, I showed these pictures to Jimmy and I said, "Do you see him here?" And he pointed straight to my husband. And that was the other half of the weird.
You know, again, I'll stop you right there because do you know who John Zaffis is? Have you ever
Oh,
heard
yeah.
that name? Okay,
Oh, yeah.
so John Zaffis, we're friends with John. We do events with John. John has this theory that we talked about last year before. John Zaffis believes that spirit attracts spirit. So if there's spirit in here, other spirits are going to come in, kind of like somebody mentioned a portal type of thing.
Right.
And what you're
People tell me I
describing
need a portal.
sure sounds like what he was talking about. Not only the spirits of the building, but now you've sort of brought
Yeah.
in one or two of your own there, which is good, very interesting. But I'm thinking there was guys on here saying that they're going to be there tonight.
Yep.
At the
Yep.
my
there now.
advice is when you get naked, get in that shower with the recorder, and let's see what we get, and send me the audio from that. So let me go back to that for a second, though. After that happened, did you take a shower again there? And weren't you like kind of freaked out a little after that? I would be freaked out, to be honest.
Yeah, it freaked me out. And no, if I had to take a shower, I would. But if I had an option of waiting until I got home, I waited until I got home.
But again, what's the feeling like knowing? Like it's one thing having an idea of hearing the noises and all that, but knowing that they're watching and actually talking, that doesn't make you at least a little bit kind of apprehensive about being in there by yourself at any point, opening up the building, closing the building, any of that stuff?
Rest assured, I don't wait inside the building anymore for people. I sit on the front porch. I'll sit on the front porch and wait for you, but I won't go inside and wait for you.
So no one's ever been
there.
like no one's ever been pushed, scratched, anything weird
The
like
opposite. Well, someone has been scratched.
that. Okay. That's very rare.
Through a boot, no less.
Through a boot. Wow, that's
Through a
interesting.
boot. Yeah. I thought so too. But anyway,
Go ahead.
one of the first hunts that took place, this girl comes running up to me and says, Linda, I've got to tell you what just happened to me. And I was in the main room downstairs where everybody kind of gathers. There's 2 couches and a couple of chairs and a couple of more chairs. And, people gather there. Anyway, she pulls me aside. She says, I have to tell you this now while it's fresh. She said, I was coming downstairs, the front stairs, which were carpeted at the time. They're not anymore. She said, I slipped and I started to fall and I knew I was going all the way down and I was going to break something.
Right.
She was that far into the fall. She said, something grabbed me around my stomach, held me until I got my balance and let go.
Wow.
So you
that
have
is really
someone
weird.
who's a caretaker there who looks out for people.
Yes, we do. So I never worry about that.
So I mentioned to you before we went on, which was really strange. I just Googled the Hill House Manor, and I actually saw something from the New York Post by us that I showed you what the quote was. I can't remember exactly what it said, but it said something about sexual whatever. Is there more of that going on? What it says, Texas couple insists their home is haunted by sexual ghosts who talk dirty. Now, was that only with you that one time, or have other people?
No. Oh, no. We've had, especially in the upstairs bedrooms, and one of those bedrooms in particular, you can get sexual EVPs all the time. Like, oh, baby, oh, baby.
See, I think that's hilarious. I mean, I, as a researcher and an investigator, I think that's really, really interesting because, again, it's weird enough to think that spirits are around us, but to think that you're still a horny guy in the afterlife, and you're.
Who says it's just a guy? Could it be a woman too?
Whatever. But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I think that's fascinating. I really do. So I want to go back to your husband again because we touched on that a little bit. After
late husband or my current
late husband,
late husband.
after that happened, was there any um was there any idea for you? Did you have any inclination to want to go back there and try to talk to him?
No.
No, you didn't even want to see if he was there, why he was there, if he had a message.
Well, he kind of showed up one night when they were doing a dowsing rod session in the main
Okay.
room. And I wasn't paying any attention to him. I was sitting at the desk on the internet, probably playing Farmville or something. It's that long ago.
Oh wow, yeah, you are going back.
Yeah. Anyway, this guy was doing a dowsing rod session and he was standing 3 or 4 feet away from me and I wasn't paying attention. But then I started hearing answers that would have made sense for my late husband to give those answers.
Okay.
And I said, Scott, wait a minute. I think you may have touched on something. And I gave him a couple of questions to ask. And I'm convinced it was my late husband they were talking to.
That's really strange. And you know, the other thing that really is featured a lot. Again, I didn't watch My Ghost Story, but I watched a couple of news clips and paranormal teams going in there. They always mention that one door. Now, is that door as hard to open as everybody says it is? Or is it possible to close another door or open a window and that thing's going to blow open?
There's a funny story about that.
Okay.
But first, that is a hard door to open. When you've pounded it shut, and I always pound it shut on the tour, so that people will know it's not opening.
Is that a closet door or is that a door to another room?
Kind of a closet.
Okay.
It's in the bathroom and there's 2 closets in the bathroom and I have no idea why.
That's weird. That is really weird.
This house was built 1 room at a time, I think.
Yeah, that's strange.
It started as a 1 room, then it was a 2 room and they just kept adding up and back and over the well. Anyway, that's not where I was going with this story.
The door I was asking about.
The door. Yes. It will open on its own. We have it on camera.
I saw it.
On its own. And one night, I was sitting downstairs at the desk, probably again on Farmville, and this guy comes running in and says, Linda, you got to come with me. I figured it out. I know what makes the door open. I'm like, okay, I'm a debunker. I mean, you got to prove it to me.
That's why I asked you
all of it.
Right.
I am a debunker. So we go upstairs and he says, it's this spot. And we came out of the bathroom into a little anteroom. Mm-hmm. And he stepped on a board. He said, now that should open it. And it didn't. He said, no, I know it was this board. And he stepped on it again. Nope, didn't move. So he starts stepping on the boards around it. Nope, didn't move. The ghosts were messing with him.
Wow, that happens too. That happens a lot.
So that answers Kathy's question. It's not residual, it's intelligent.
That sounds like a lot of the spirits there are intelligent and they're capable of interacting.
I've had people tell me that they never have experienced intelligent hauntings.
Like that.
But they seriously believe in the intelligent hauntings at Hill House. And you'll have conversations with them. They will play tricks on you if if you get the right one. But he spent all that time obviously trying to figure out how to get the door to open. And some spirit latched onto it and said, I'll show it to you.
So again, from a perspective of someone who owns a building, because I always wonder about this too, was there ever any like inclination when you kind of knew there was something going on to have a medium, a priest, whatever, go in there and try to rid the spirit so you could still rent the place and make money off the investment like you wanted to originally?
Well, one of the first groups we had in was called Spirit Rescuers.
Okay.
And that was their mission. was to rescue trapped spirits. And everybody has their own philosophy on ghosts, spirits.
Yeah.
What are they? Where do they
Right.
come from? Where do they
Right.
go?
Right.
In fact, I've written a book.
Really?
Oh yeah, I've written several books.
Where can we find your books?
Amazon.
Okay.
You just Google search Linda Hill and your
Linda Anthony Hill.
Linda Anthony Hill. Okay.
Because there's a Linda Hill who's an author as well.
Okay.
And mine are all paranormal, pretty much.
Oh wow, that's really
There's
interesting
one-
too.
Yeah, I've written. I think my most recent one is 13 ghost stories. Hill
wow.
House Manor, 13 ghost stories,
See,
and they're 13 independent stories, and they are totally fiction, except
Okay.
that they're kind of based on stories people told me, but
Gotcha.
they couldn't prove. So I couldn't really post them as nonfiction. I mean, fiction. What am I
Right.
saying? Anyway, I
So
turned them into ghost stories.
all right. So the ghost, this, what are they called? Rescuers. They come in with the mission of clearing the house.
Right.
What happens there?
Well, they confirmed that there were some ghosts stuck there, but they didn't know how to deal with it.
Gotcha.
So I found a medium who came to the house and freed up one of them. We know there's
Okay.
no stuck ghosts at Hill House
Right.
anymore.
Right.
They're all coming and going at their leisure.
Right.
But back then, there were some entities that were trapped.
Right.
And we took care of that. We just got them untrapped.
But it's
leave? No, there's no point. They're happy.
See, I like that perspective though. I really, really do, because from a business standpoint, you could have taken a path of, hey, we bought these properties. We're losing on this deal here, making $50, $200 every weekend. But instead you embraced it and said, hey, they're here. Not only do I embrace them being here, but I'm going to invite others in.
Yeah,
to
that was an
experience.
open-minded decision.
I like that.
Yeah.
But again, you have to be mindful of who you let in as well, because
Oh yeah.
some people will do some weird stuff. We've seen it. We've heard it.
Well, we discourage anybody that hunts demons
Oh,
from even
ridiculous.
coming to the house. I don't want
Ridiculous.
demon hunters.
Ridiculous.
Hill House, I call it the law of attraction in action.
Right.
What you put out there is what you receive back. So if you're looking for evil, it'll find you.
Yeah.
I believe that.
You set your intention,
Right.
pretty much.
And if you set your intention for just some fun with the local spirits, that's what you'll get.
So
And
having
sometimes
said
they-
that, do you have a way besides just meeting and talking to people? Because some people are very good about hiding and disguising who they really are. Do you have a system in place where you can filter out, or you have rules that they have to sign that they can and can't do, or anything like that to protect yourself?
No. Well, I have a waiver they have to sign
Okay.
that any pictures they take, or any films or anything, I should have access to.
Right.
I
I agree with that.
People are pretty good at that. Well, it's also, if you are in a picture, we have your permission to show that picture.
Right.
Because people don't think about it when they're in a haunted house with a bunch of people looking to get a picture of a ghost, that there's cameras going all over the place when you stop to pick your nose, and just because you don't want that on air, if it's got a ghost in it, you're going to be on the air picking your nose, because they're not going to suppress that.
No.
All I can think about is the shower now. If I was in there tonight, I would be in that shower.
Yeah, but she didn't. Just
Maybe
hear
maybe
the
in a
voice.
Speedo, maybe not naked. I would try to get as close to naked as I could, but not completely naked. And I think I would scare the ghost out, so I don't think that would work either. So
You also talked about the housewives.
oh yeah, that's
Oh,
right.
yeah. the, what is it called? Real Housewives of Dallas.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't even watch those shows, but I know they have them for
Don't
New
either.
Jersey. They have it for New Jersey, for Atlanta, all these other ones.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so they came to the manor.
They spent a night at the manor
Oh wow, that must have
with
been fun.
full film crew. Well, we got them a psychic, and she is familiar with the house. You could call her the house psychic.
Okay.
When we need somebody, she lives here in town, so it's convenient. You know, you're not going to get somebody driving all the way from Dallas.
No.
Well, I mean, people drive all the way from Dallas all the time to spend the night.
Yeah,
and
but not
do
last minute for
investigation.
stuff. Yeah.
Right. But if you need somebody at the last minute, it's best if you have somebody close
Okay.
and flexible with their hours. Anyway, they got the psychic, so they had all kinds of good experiences.
Oh, did they?
Oh, yeah.
And they showed it on the episode, everything that they experienced.
So everybody can go back and look at
I
that.
think
Go
that's
find it
cool.
on
I
YouTube
really
and stuff
do.
like that. That's interesting.
What about other TV
occurred to me.
shows? Have you ever had like any of these other
Well,
ghost hunters or any of the other?
HGTV
Okay.
made a documentary, not a documentary. Well, maybe it was a documentary. Anyway, it was the 10 creepiest homes in America,
Oh, cool.
and we made it.
Oh wow. See, she's got more things she's just pulling out.
I think it's again meeting someone. We never meet the people that own the places. Really, it's you know as well as I do now that a lot of these places now are purchased now by millionaires and
Yeah, they're commercial.
they are looking for investments. And I'm not going to mention any place in particular, but these places are selling for $1 million in some cases. The ones that are really, well known.
Yeah.
And the fact that you have this, and we know a guy named, I don't know if you ever heard of the Hinsdale House, but Dan is the same way. Dan bought this property because he investigated it. He fixed it up. He lets
He saved it from
groups go in
being
there every
torn
weekend.
down.
And it's just, to me, as a researcher and someone in this field, I appreciate that. And I think you're very, very reasonable what you're charging. I mean, very reasonable. So,
Well, on the weekends, it's more expensive. And like I said, $250 is as high as we go. And you can have more than 10 people, but you have to pay an extra $25 a person.
but
And
that's
that's
beyond
nothing.
Still a great deal.
and that's overnight.
Overnight.
Oh my God. Yeah,
No, but you
that's-
can't-
Monday
that's
through
beyond
Wednesday, you can get it for $150.
Wow. So if you're
Can't beat
watching
that.
anywhere near Gainesville, sounds like a great place to go.
Or you want to make a
check it
trip.
out. I would have a camera running in that bathroom 24/7 though.
Oh Lord.
I really would. Linda, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you doing this. This was a lot of fun. And hopefully you come on again and we could talk more and I didn't get into the Dr. Phil stuff that I was planning on analyzing you, but we'll do that the next time.
I appreciate you having me. I had a good time.
All right, Linda,
Thank you,
take care of
Linda.
yourself.
Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you.
She was
Wow.
great. It took a while to get her on, but well worth it. She, again, the stuff that I saw online was really kind of funny. I love her attitude. I love that she opens up that place to people and how she didn't try to cleanse it. And she's just really, really good about her approach to what she has.
I think she's a well that we still haven't tapped in on a lot of stuff yet. I think she's got so much more to give.
Yeah, but I enjoyed that, and I'm glad we finally got it done. But for those of you who don't normally watch us, again, I'm John. This is Chris. We're New Jersey Paranormal. We do live investigations. We do interviews. We have events that we do all across New Jersey. We run a big convention, New Jersey Para Unity Expo, and tomorrow night, if you're watching, 7:30, 8 o'clock. I don't know what time it gets dark, but we will be at the new Creeper Gallery tomorrow. We're going to see what we see, do what we can do as far as investigate it, see what works, see what doesn't work. But we will be there tomorrow, starting at either 7:30 or 8 o'clock, whenever it gets dark. I think 7:30 might still work. But we'll be on live from the new Creeper Gallery, give you a tour, do what we can do, see what the sound's like, and we'll take it from there. But thanks for watching, guys. We appreciate it. See you mañana.
And real quick, Mary Jane, I hope everything's okay with
Yes.
Paul. John and I have been praying for him and just thinking about you and supporting you. Everybody that watched tonight, thank you. Please be safe. Please be healthy. And please remember to be kind. It's very important. Good night, everybody.
Have a good night, guys. Be careful in the shower. You know those ghosts are watching.